Welcome to the NBA Carousel, brought to you by Sideline Sports in conjunction with Fantasy and Flavors. I'm Megan Price, your host and regular season Spurs representative. Game 7 for the Mavs Clippers series ended round 1 for us yesterday, with the Clippers advancing to round 2 to face the Utah Jazz, the number 1 team in the NBA. Out of the West semifinals, we will also see the Denver versus Phoenix series, which starts today. Denver beating Portland in Game 6 gave way to some coaching drama. Stotts and Portland mutually parted ways, as did Coach Clifford and the Orlando Magic. In the East, we will have the Milwaukee versus Brooklyn and Atlanta versus Philly series. But let's jump right in with the number 1 team in the NBA. We have Will Vogel covering the Utah Jazz. Hi, Will.
Hi, Megan.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing really well. All right, well let's start with Game 5 because the last show that we still had to finish up the Utah Memphis series. So let's start with that Game 5.
Let's shall. Well, the Jazz took care of business. They won the series 4-1. I thought it was going 6, but you know what? It's more rest for the Utah Jazz. They got a few days extra rest to get ready for the winner of the Clippers Mavericks series. And Mitchell had 30 points, 10 rebounds. Gobert had 23 points, 15 rebounds. Bogdanovich had 17 points. O'Neal had 17 points, and Clarkson had 24 off the bench. So it was good production, and I think the extra time off was good because then you can, as players and coaches and assistant coaches and trainers, you can sit back and watch the Mavericks Clippers series and say, hey, they do this like this. We need to do this to fight that and study film. So it gave them extra time to study film going game by game because stuff changes through a 7-game series. So offenses changes, defenses changes. Like Luka for the Mavericks, the Clippers had to bench Pat Beverly because he wasn't playing that good defense against Luka, and so they put in Reggie Jackson and other guys who tried to shut down Luka. So it gave Jazz different scenarios to work with, whether they would be facing the Clippers or whether they'd be playing the Mavericks, which they'll be playing the Clippers.
Okay, yeah, the Clippers ended up taking the Mavericks to a 7-game series. They were able to come out on top, and like you said, we got to see some of those different rotations so that Utah could definitely be more prepared for that. Okay, so what are you most concerned about coming up into this series against LA?
I'm concerned about letting Kawhi Leonard go off. But the good thing about Utah is Utah, and I forgot what analyst who said it, but it was smart. They said Utah's full of shooters. They have more shooters than the Clippers do. So I think it'll be a tight series, but you can't let Kawhi go off like every game or else it's going to be a long series. And I expect it to be a long series, but like if you can shut down Kawhi, then you got Paul George has been known as playoff P, which he hasn't been playing well, but actually lately he has been playing well. So if you could get rid of one piece of the puzzle, then you can leave the other one and focus on the other one more and not worry about one piece.
Do you feel like y'all's defense, the Utah defense, is prepared for the Clippers? I mean, we all know that Kawhi is a great two-way player. We know PG is a great scorer, but you have Rudy Gobert on your squad, who has been Defensive Player of the Year before and is quite possibly Defensive Player of the Year this year. We don't know yet. But, I mean, do you feel like Gobert is going to be enough?
We'll have to see. I'm hoping, I don't know what the rotations are going to be like, but I think Gobert can definitely shut down whoever's playing the forward position, whether it's Zubac or whoever their backup is. I can't remember who it is right now. I don't think it's anybody major. And then Mitchell's going to either have to guard Kawhi or Paul George, which we'll have to see. I think it'll be a very compelling series.
How many games do you think this series goes?
I think it's going 7.
I
really think it's going 6 or 7. I think it's. I was doing research before the show. The Jazz beat the Clippers every time during the regular season, whether they had Paul George or actually every time except for once. But did they have Paul George or Kawhi? I didn't really check. It just depends. Okay. But I think it'll be a good long series. And both teams are well deserving.
I think this is the first time in the Western Conference that we have teams competing that never have had a championship. Clippers don't have a championship. Utah doesn't have a championship.
I think it's the first time if the Clippers advance going to the conference finals.
Okay.
So that's
big time.
That's a lot of pressure. That's a lot.
It is a lot of pressure. I know there's been a lot of talk this season that Utah has the ability to get through the regular season in the number 1 position, which they did, but that they don't really they're not really time tested in the playoffs. Do you feel like that's something that they're going to use as motivation, or do you think like they're fully prepared for this series?
Well, you always want to prepare for a tough team, whether it's all the pieces are playing or not. You have to add in all scenarios. I think that getting rid of the Grizzlies, like in a 5-game series, like I said, the extra rest and the extra studying on film will definitely help the Jazz. Will it help them win the series? It's too early to tell.
Right. Okay. And so what do you think gives Utah the advantage over LA?
Better shooting overall.
Absolutely.
I think Bogdanovich is a great shooter. I think Mitchell can score at will. You got Rudy Gobert, who's an offense and defensive great player. You got Mike Conley, and you got Clarkson off the bench, who's tearing it up.
Absolutely.
When he was doing it in the regular season and the postseason. So I think the Jazz have better shooters. Like, I know Kawhi's a great defender, but Kawhi can't guard all 5 guys. Someone's going to be open for a shot. Someone's going to be open, whether it's Mitchell, Royce O'Neal, Conley, Bogdanovich, Clarkson. Like, he can't guard all 5 guys. So I think it's going to be a very tough
option as well.
I'm sorry?
I said Ingles is a pretty good option as well.
Ingles is a great option too. So, yeah, great shooting on the team.
All right. Well, why don't you go ahead and let everybody know. Oh, let's go over when the games are. My bad. The Clippers and the Jazz play tomorrow at 9 for Game 1. And then Game 2 is Thursday at 9. Game 3 is Saturday at 7:30, and then Game 4 is Monday at 9 o'clock. All these times are Central.
Yeah, I'll definitely be keeping an eye on the series. I always keep an eye on the series, all the series, Eastern and Western, to always look at what potential matchups are to come in future rounds.
Definitely. Well, we'll let everybody know where they can find you and where they can follow you. And we'll see you back next week.
Yes, Megan. I think when we come back next week, I think it'll be a tied series, personally. I'm going to call it right now.
That'll be fun.
But, yeah, you guys can find me here on the NBA Carousel. You can find me on the Gauntlet, hosted by James Tatum. And then you can find me on the Sip Off, hosted by Megan Price.
Thank you so much, Will. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, Megan.
You're welcome. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and shoot over to the East. We have Jay Nelson with the 76ers.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, Jay. How you doing?
Doing good.
Awesome. So It's been interesting for the Sixers so far. So since the last time you were on the show, Embiid got injured. Turns out he has a small tear in his meniscus. He did actually play yesterday, but we'll get to that. Let's go ahead and wrap up the Wizards series, though. Last time we talked, there was still one more game to play, and that was Game 5 of the Sixers versus Washington.
Okay. In that one, I'll be honest with you. I don't think anybody really had a Washington coming out outside of DC.
That's a
right.
Simply can't stand.
Okay.
No problem.
Yeah, they did let him get that game before. I kind of figured that would have happened. Sixers are usually good about dropping one at least, kind of like the Lakers. But they went on ahead and they closed the deal. At the end of the day, it's too much Philadelphia. It was too much firepower. Embiid is on. You're talking about MVP. His partner's a potential DPOY. And, it's crazy because bring up Russell Westbrook. And, we kind of wish that he would get a championship, but is he going to that style of play?
I mean, yeah, I agree. I mean, he puts up the most Westbrook stat lines sometimes. Like, he'll get that triple-double, but, I mean, he doesn't ever exceed the points or produce the points that I think he could actually do if he would work on his shooting a little bit more. His assists are always there. His rebounds always there. But those points. Now, he does get into double digits, but his shooting percentages aren't great. So I would love to see Westbrook elevate his shooting abilities.
Oh, yeah. Westbrook is always, I think at one point in time, I looked up a stat of his for his career 3-point shooting percentage, and it was like 23%. It was horrible.
Yeah.
That's from a center from, say, like the 90s, but for a point guard, that's terrible.
Yeah, it is terrible. I agree. He could definitely up that. And I think at this point, we do want to see him get a ring. He's kind of like Chris Paul. Like, we'd love to see Chris Paul retire with a ring. We'd love to see Westbrook retire with a ring. But, if he doesn't figure out something with that shooting, I don't know if that's going to happen. Now, I do like that combination of him and Beal. But I think that Washington has a lot of room that they need to do some growth. I don't think Bertans needs to be your third shooting option, even though, he's done all right throughout the season. And I always love shouting out former Spurs, but I think it's time that he's aging, that it's time to think about a better third option and some bench depth.
And relegate him role. He could still absolutely and whatnot. It's kind of like Danny Green back in the first.
Right.
Now, he used to shoot the lights out. He had a finals record for threes at one point. Now, he may not be that guy anymore. But, and this is something that I came across earlier this week, is sometimes it's not about how many you make, but when you make it.
Right, absolutely.
So
he was always coming off the bench in San Antonio. So it wasn't like, oh, he just had a whole ton of points, but they were vital in our winning. You know what I mean? It was the timing of those shots.
Because he hit them at the right time. He might not be able to hit 6 threes right now, but if he can hit the three-pointer when you need it, that is impact.
Absolutely. So speaking of Danny Green, in that game 5, Danny Green only had 5, 2, and 4. That was his stat line right there. 5 points, 2 assists, 4 rebounds, which, we don't really count too much for the assists or the rebounds. You don't expect that out of Danny Green, but points-wise, super low. So if we shoot over to game 1 of the Sixers versus Hawks, Danny Green had almost an identical stat line with 4, 4, and 2. Where is he at?
Yeah, if he comes off the bench and knocks down a 3 or 2, to kind of get him going. Now I get it. The Atlanta Hawks, they were running.
Yeah, definitely.
There was times like I was like, oh man, the Hawks got this one. I look at my phone, I look back up. Oh shoot, it's a 7-point game. It's a 5-point game. Like me and my boys shooting. We're like, man, dude. I'm like, Sixers about to catch these dudes.
Right. Yeah, it was close in the end. It was close. Now Sixers struggled early on, and then Embiid kind of got into his rhythm. Embiid ended up finishing the game with 39 points, 4 assists, and 9 rebounds. So definitely not something that you can put on an Embiid and say, oh, the loss is on him, because he had a great performance. The final score ended up being 128 Atlanta, 124 76ers. When I look at these stats, though, I feel like Harris kind of had a slow night. Even though he had a good stat line, it's 20 points, 3 assists, and 10 rebounds. I just feel like his point production was a little bit lower than what we've seen. So seems like maybe Atlanta is a better defensive team than people have been giving them credit for.
Absolutely, they are. Now at the same time, Embiid also, even though they lost that game, Embiid showed why he should be the most valuable player because he literally put the team on his back down the stretch.
Absolutely.
He had 39. Simmons, he had a double-double. I mean, in 37 minutes, he had 17 points. Am I expecting Simmons to come with 30? No. Or not even 25.
Right.
But you can depend on him for 10 assists or whatever. He had 10 assists. Seth Curry had 21. Tobias Harris, 20, put up a double-double, I think if we had gotten a little bit more out of, and you know what, I don't want to make people think I'm Simmons. I'm glad he so I won't talk about Simmons. If we would have gotten more out of even Danny Green, 4 points. Come on, man.
Oh, yeah. Low production. What stuck out to me on Ben Simmons' stat line was his double-double was in points and assists. So his rebounds were kind of low. Like he only had 4 rebounds, and that's kind of surprising for Simmons. You're used to seeing more rebounding production out of him than that. So, to me, that also says something to the Atlanta defense as well. Now, Atlanta, their point production was pretty astronomical. Collins had 21. Capella, he was kind of low on the 11, but I mean, he still had great rebounding. Trey had 35. Bogdanovich had 21, and then Herter had 15. So, it seems like their bench depth is coming through. And what do you expect out of this series?
Oh, you know what? The more I watch the Hawks, the more I realize that they are a 2 seed masquerading as a 5. I believe they are that good.
Oh, wow.
I believe they are good. You know what I mean? And so, because like Bogdanovich, dude couldn't miss. He
was ice cold yesterday.
The whole arena, and our boy James Tatum was there. The whole arena was rocking. He knocks it down. He tells the crowd,
I saw.
Come on, man. That dude is crazy. I'm not expecting the Hawks to win the East, but I expect them to be in the top 3 next year.
Interesting. I expect them to be that good. And I think that one of the main, I know they had the injury bug early on in the season, and it lasted for quite a while. And so about the same time that they let their other head coach go, and then they hired Nate McMillan, and which was great timing. And then everyone else was kind of coming off their injuries, and they haven't had a whole lot of injuries since then. Trey did have a minor injury, but he was able to come back, and he still looks fantastic. I think one of the problems that I saw out of Philly was Maxey, Hill, and Howard all had extremely slow nights and still had valid minutes. Like they all were like 16 minutes and up, and let me see their minutes wise. No, they had more than that actually. So like 17, 18, and 20 minutes. So if you're having 20 minutes in a game and you're only having 4 points, or there was a couple that had 0 points, like that's unacceptable from your bench.
Exactly. And I mean, that just proves that Atlanta, for now at least, is a deeper team. And we talk about defensively. Now, as of right now, I still have, for example, got the Nets as a better team. But see, I was conversing with my buddy this past weekend. He's got them taking it all. He made a bet in Vegas. He's like, yo, they can get you 140. Who's going to stop them? Well, you look at Atlanta. Let's see here. Simmons turned the ball over 5 times. Embiid turned the ball over 4 times. Harris turned the ball over 4 times.
And they have the ability to shoot almost not as well as the Nets, but almost as well. Like if their bench is doing this, if they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They had 5 players in double digits yesterday. So if they can keep that up and then bring the defense, they can shake that shooting in Brooklyn for sure.
They can. But still on the other side, that's AD, that's Harden, that's
yeah.
So,
we'll get to that with Steve, but yeah, Brooklyn is definitely tough. So do you expect you guys to beat Atlanta this series?
I think the Philadelphia 76ers, what I think they may end up doing is what they have to do is, first and foremost, they got to get the ball out of Trey's hands. You see what he's doing. He's chopping and slashing cats,
Right.
You may have to double, And look, if Trey's going to get his, Well, we got to get the ball out of his hands. Make the other guy beat us.
Right.
You know, we can't keep letting the dude bust us up. Make the other guys beat us. You got to get the ball out of his hands. Look at what the Clippers did late yesterday versus Luka. They took the ball out of his hands, and then Kawhi went off.
Right, and what the Clippers managed to do was shut Tim Hardaway down since Game 3 and on, because the first 2 games Hardaway had great performances, but since Game 3 and on, they completely shut him down. And so I think that's one of the biggest pieces. Trey, he's going to get his points, like exactly like you said. He's going to get his, shut down the pieces around him.
Exactly.
So I definitely agree.
Once again,
so we can look forward to Game 2 tomorrow at 6:30. Game 3 Friday at 6:30, and then Game 4 is to be determined.
Yes. As of right now, I think Philly gets together, and I think they still won. They still won in Game 2. I'm gonna. You know what? I'll be honest with you. I think this one might go 7 games.
7 games, but you think Philly comes out on top?
I think Philly would win in 7 games.
Awesome. All right, Jay. Well, go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you, where they can follow you, and we'll see you back next week.
All right. So you can find me on Twitter at NellyNell13, NELLINEL13. Also, you can catch me on the Sip Off, hosted by Megan Price, now on Thursday night. You can also catch me here on the NBA Carousel every Monday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Also, with Visual Dramatics, VisD Production on Roku as a staff writer and journalist. And here in about an hour, I'm actually going to do another live commentary on the Floyd Mayweather-Jake Paul fight. So, please tune in to it. Let me know your thoughts and everything. Shout out Marshall Hill, shout out Craig Davis, Monk Official Kings fam. See y'all next week.
Thanks, Jay. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and shoot back to the West. We have Jordan Long covering the Phoenix Suns. Hey, Jordan.
Hey, Megan.
How are you?
I'm good.
Awesome. All right, so you guys were able to eliminate the Lakers. How does that feel?
It feels pretty good. The thing going into this series, of course, was Anthony Davis and LeBron James and how healthy they were. As we saw in this series, they were not 100%. So the fact of the matter is when they actually won their playing game, it was a scary matchup because we know what LeBron James brings to the table as well as Anthony Davis. But the fact of the matter is we actually played well. And the Lakers offense couldn't get going with those 2 superstars with 97.5 points per game. Plus, you have Devin Booker, who's in his first – it's hard to believe it's in his first playoffs, but he is playing not like a rookie, but a veteran.
Right, absolutely. He has showed out in that series against LA. And I have to say, in the last 2 games, which you guys were able to end it in 6 games. So those last 2 games, Game 5 and Game 6, it just seemed like, look, LA didn't get above 100 points. They had 85 points. And then in the next game, let's see, what did they have? Oh, they got exactly 100. So, but it was still a 13-point deficit. So just looked like you guys were fully in charge. And I don't know if that was just in account to LA was injured and they were struggling, or if you guys are just that good. But I think people have not exactly been paying attention to y'all this season. While you were in the number 2 or number 3 seed majority of the season, I think you guys kind of won quietly, and people weren't like, you didn't see a whole lot of changes. There weren't roster changes. There wasn't a whole lot of injuries. Like, it was just y'all been quietly winning all season. So I don't think anybody expected y'all to beat LA.
No, I mean, you hit it right on the head. You heard about Utah. You heard about the Lakers getting healthy, the Denver Nuggets. Nothing about the Phoenix Suns and their number 2 seed. And the fact of the matter is we deserved that number 2 seed. We almost had the number 1 seed, except for, I think there was only one game where if we would have won, we would have had that number 1 seed if Utah lost. But you're right. No one is listening to us, counting us out. And that's exactly how we like it.
And so today starts your next series for round 2. You got the Nuggets, who were able to beat Portland out also in 6 games. I kind of thought Denver and Portland was going to go 7 games. I thought they were going to go the distance in that series, but it looks like, I mean, they were obviously able to close it out. And, Joker, MPJ, they all look like they're kind of gelling together. There's a few flaws in their lineups because they're injured. But what do you expect out of this series coming up?
It's going to be really, really tough. It's definitely a tougher matchup than the LA Lakers because of the fact that they are healthy for the most part. Sure, they don't have Dozier or Will Barton, which I think he might be coming back in the series, but I'm not 100% sure. But of course, Jamal Murray isn't there. But you still have Nikola Jokic. You have Michael Porter Jr. All of them can shoot, as well as on defense, Facu Campazzo, as well as Aaron Gordon. It's really a tough matchup. And off the bench, they have Monte Morris. That makes it even more difficult.
And Morris has had a great playoff series so far. He's really kind of stepped up in that shooting that they've lost for not having Jamal Murray. So, he's kind of filled that role, even though, and MPJ as well, it kind of seems like they split up the point difference of not having that one player there. So, I think that's going to be difficult, but I really see you guys having more depth than Denver because of them not having Jamal Murray.
Well, that could be true, especially since we've got Torrey Craig off the bench, who is one of our better defenders. We have Frank Kaminsky. I know he's a center coming off the bench. Cameron Johnson and Cameron Pine, all great players. But the fact of the matter is I think this really comes down to our shooting, our outside shooting especially. We saw in the Portland series with the Nuggets that the Nuggets relied heavily on opponents shooting the three-pointer, and we saw that with Damian Lillard at the end of the game, I think game 4, where he just went off and got that game into overtime. But the fact of the matter is the outside shooting is going to be key. They're going to let you shoot the outside shot. It's just a matter of you making those shots.
Right. So how far do you expect this series to go?
It's really a tough call because in the regular season, the Nuggets won the series 2-1. Of course, they didn't have Aaron Gordon. I could easily see this going 6 or 7 games just because both teams can shoot, they can play defense. It's just going to come down to who can execute more and not limit the turnovers.
Absolutely. And, I was looking worried that, Joker looks like he's kind of a shoe-in for MVP. And when that series first started with Portland, it looked like Denver was struggling. And so I had concerns like, are we gonna have a playoffs where the MVP gets put out in the first round? But they were able to defeat Portland, and I think Portland's biggest problem is they don't have defense. But with you guys, this is different. This is a much tougher series. So do you expect you guys to win this series and move on?
I do. I mean, we're the number 2 seed. We're the number 2 seed for a reason. Even though that we did go 2-1 against them, but this is the playoffs, and we haven't been past the second round since 2010 when we had Steve Nash and went to the Western Conference Finals. I expect nothing less.
And so, does your franchise have a championship?
We do not. We've been close. We lost the last time we actually went to the NBA Finals was in 1993, and of course we lost to Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls.
Charles Barkley was on that squad.
Yeah, it's too bad he didn't have a ring. We're just hoping we can get Steve Nash. I'm thinking about the coach. I'm talking about Chris Paul, other point guard.
I would love to see CP3 have a chance at that. And I kind of feel like Utah's going to come out on top on LA, but I think it's a great matchup. And so, kind of one of those, the same with your series, it's hard to tell. But, early on in the season, I called it Utah versus Phoenix in the Western Finals. And so that would be really cool if I was right. I just kind of would have loved to seen that matchup. I don't think either one of those franchises, yours doesn't. I don't think Utah has a championship either. So that would just be awesome to see one of them push forward that way.
Well, and if that happens, you're going to have 2 of the best scorers in the league in Devin Booker and Donovan Mitchell. That would be one great series. They both can go up for 50, and who knows who would win that at that point.
Right, absolutely. All right, Jordan. Well, thank you so much. Go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you, where they can follow you, and we'll see you back next week.
Thank you, Megan. You can find me on Twitter at SportsScoop1, and I also have my own blog that I write Mondays through Fridays, and that is at www.sports-scoop.com.
Thanks, Jordan. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and swing back to the East. We have Cole McCain covering the Milwaukee Bucks. Where's our producer? There we go. Hey, cool. How you doing?
What's going on, Megan? How you doing?
I'm doing really well. So today you're going to be covering the Bucks and the Nuggets for us. So let's
Yes,
start
I
with
am.
the Bucks. Take it to the East. Let's talk about one. Let's talk about yesterday,
Mhm.
and then
So
kind of
actually,
final
2 days ago.
2 days ago, and then
Yeah.
finalize the series before that. Kind of
Mhm.
recap that series before that.
So basically, Portland's a one-man team. They don't play enough defense, and their coach should be fired. So I think they needed to make changes, which they did. We took advantage of that situation. Um, we were able to, get enough points, even with Damian Lillard doing what he does really well, to win those
Mhm.
series. Had to win a game in double overtime, but you have to do what you have to do, in order to win games. So that's pretty much, what Denver had to do for that. Um,
Right.
I know we're going to talk about what the series that they're going on now later. Just want to go ahead and get that out of the way, since that's recapping last round.
Right.
Um,
And they actually did part ways with Stotts. I think
they
they
should have,
announced
yeah,
that yesterday, or the day before yesterday, actually.
yeah, like
So,
literally the next day.
right. And so, one, they're looking for a head coaching position. And then
Hmm.
two, there was some news about Dame Lillard wanting Jason Kidd to be,
Yeah.
was kind of his pick for head coaching
Hmm.
position there in Portland. And Jason Kidd is actually an assistant coach for the Lakers currently. And he actually pulled his name out of running in that. So not sure why he decided that wasn't the move for him. Don't know if anything's going on in LA and maybe he has some different things lined up, or if he's just happy where he's at. So interesting to see
Well,
who's going to end up in Portland as the head coach.
one thing on that, Megan, I was looking at it a little bit, right?
Mhm.
So I noticed that Vogel only has a 3-year contract. This is year
Interesting.
2.
Yeah.
So one more year, Vogel's contract is over. So if I'm Jason Kidd and I have an opportunity to maybe slide in to that LA job in a
Mhm.
year, I probably want to keep myself in LA. And then, I mean, let's be honest, Portland's not an attractive job either. We're not
Right.
looking at
It's a
where you
small
have
market.
it. Yeah, it's a small market. And if Lillard doesn't get the right pieces, he may want out. So I think staying in LA, because you're going to always be a draw there because you're in LA. Clippers, Lakers, certain teams, they're always a draw. So if I were him, I probably would have done the same thing. Portland's a great
Right.
organization. They got a lip service, but at the end of the day, I want to be somewhere where I have an opportunity to be successful. And as currently constructed, that's not Portland. And plus, I have an opportunity to maybe slide over from the assistant chair to the big chair in the Lakers in another year. Yeah, I think
Mhm.
I'm gonna stay put.
Interesting. Now back to Game 6, though. As I look at these at Denver stats, something that sticks out to me was Rivers. Rivers had 40 minutes and he only had
Yes.
7 points and 1 rebound, and that's it. I think that is something that you don't want from your backup guard for sure. You definitely got to see some more point production, especially if you're in the game for 40 minutes. That's huge. It's one thing if you're only in the game for 15 minutes and you only got 7 points. I mean, conceivable, but 40 minutes, 7 points, unacceptable.
Well, you have to think, Megan. He's being asked to play a lot of defense as well. He's been asked to do a lot on the floor because of that gap with Jamal Murray not being there. So you do want to get more points from him, but as long as you can get the points, the totality from other places, as you kind of talked about with Jordan, you get it. A lot of it you're getting from Monte Morris as well as Michael Porter Jr., Jermichael Green stepping up a little bit in
Yeah.
certain games, Paul Millsap. So you have other guys, even PJ Hampton, and some of our younger guys, they're stepping up as well and putting some points in the basket. So if you can have him be like that steady force on offense and do some of those other things, the points aren't necessarily a concern every game. Now, if we go out there and he has 2 or 3 games like that, then it becomes a concern. But sometimes you have to take what you can get from him.
I absolutely agree. Now you've had the luxury, or not luxury, but luckily you have Morris, who has kind of stepped up off the bench as well in the playoffs. In that particular game, he had 22 points, 9 assists, and 4 boards. And the game before that, he had a great game as well. So it seems like he's hot. What do you hope for this series with Phoenix?
Well, definitely big shout out to Monte Morris. He's been playing like Jamal Murray-esque at the end of the games when it really
Right.
matters. Um, for this series, we have to play defense. We have to use that size advantage that we're going to have with some of those guys off the bench, like a Jermichael Green, even a Michael Porter at like 6'10", 6'11". Paul Millsap, some of those guys that we're going to be bringing in or going to start. We're going to have to use that height advantage. We're going to have to attack the boards. We're going to have to do some of those things that, some of those guys haven't been doing necessarily really well up to now, but they're going to have to lock in. Porter's going to have to be more consistent for the game. I've been noticing that he's really getting hot in one half or the other, or 2 out of the 4 quarters or something along that lines. We need a little bit more out of him consistently. I do love the fact that last game he really got cold in the second half and we just pulled him out,
Right.
Put someone else in. We ended up putting Jermichael Green in, who got a key rebound for us and, some key points down the stretch. So you have to be malleable with that as well, because he is a young player. So you're going to have some games where, maybe I want to go the veteran guy over him in certain situations. So being situational, and I have to give Michael Malone a lot of props, because that's something that I was skeptical about with him earlier in the season, was making those correct adjustments. But I feel like he's kind of gotten an idea of what he needs to do. And, it really seems to be working. So he just needs to keep down that path and don't change, just do what works.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And you said that Jermichael Green had a pivotal rebound for you guys. He only had 23 minutes and he had 10 points and 9 rebounds. So great stat line for him coming off the bench as well. Game 1 starts today at 9 o'clock my time, so Central. We'll have game 2 Wednesday at 8:30. We have game 3 Friday at 9 o'clock. And we have game 4 Sunday at 7. All those times are Central as well. All right, let's slide over to the Bucks. So the Bucks' second round has already started. They faced the Nets yesterday. The Nets ended up taking game 1, 115 to 107. And let's break that down.
If you shoot 33s and make 6, you're going to lose.
Right.
I don't care who you are. That was a poor game plan. So there's one concern I'm having now that I'm seeing. Mike Budenholzer has no ability to adapt, and that could be bad for Milwaukee, because what I'm seeing is lineups where you don't have Giannis in the game for long periods of time. Whenever you have Kevin Durant on the floor and Kyrie Irving on the floor, Giannis needs to be on the floor and Drew Holiday needs to be on the floor, as well as Chris Middleton. You need those 3 guys to battle the 2 guys from the other team. Also, your big advantage in size is when you have both Brook Lopez and Giannis in the game. You cannot afford to take both of them out. I don't know what Mike Budenholzer is doing, but if he continues with the way that he's going and this series does not go the way that I feel it should, hopefully he is out of there. Because if he can't get it done with this lineup, they need a new coach. He's not going to get it done if he can't get it done now.
I absolutely agree, because we all know that Brooklyn does not play a whole lot of defense. And it seemed like yesterday they were just completely dominant yesterday. Now, you brought up Middleton, and I've been a big advocate for Middleton all season. He's been really consistent all season. I see. I see. He had 36 minutes, and he only had 13 points. Now, he did have 13 rebounds, but he only had 13 points when we're used to seeing 25 and plus a lot of times from Chris Middleton.
Yeah, if he doesn't put up 25 plus, they're going home.
Definitely. So what did you think? What did you think of Brooklyn since they lost James Harden in the very first minute of the game? So do you feel like what do you feel about them without James Harden? Because what if we don't see him for the rest of the series? Do you think y'all have the ability to beat Brooklyn?
Well, I'll be honest with you. We definitely have the talent to beat Brooklyn, even with James Harden, I believe. But I think what you have to realize is without him, this is a position that they're used to, because a lot of times this season they had Kyrie and KD, or Kyrie and James and not KD, or they had 2 of those 3 guys. So I think they're more comfortable only playing with 2 of them just because of everyone else understands their role. So I actually think they're a more dangerous team this way, especially in this round. So I think this actually helps them. But I do believe that they have to play their game. Milwaukee has to go out there and dominate. They have to play their pace. They have to get the ball into the hole. Right now they're losing because they're not doing it again, right? You have to go out and you have to play your game. The ball needs to go to Giannis in the post. The ball needs to go to Brook Lopez in the post. Chris Middleton needs to get down in the post and work. Abandon the threes a little bit. It's okay to take some of them, but take the ball to the goal. Constantly to the goal, bang them to the goal, get them in foul trouble, get some of those guys on the bench. That's what has to happen. If they're not going to do that, they can't win the game.
Absolutely. We, in San Antonio, we've had that issue where we've lost a lot of our 3-point shooters. One of them going to Milwaukee he was one of our great 3-point shooters. And, we just kind of had some issues over time. We don't have Manu anymore. We don't have TP anymore. And a lot of those were our 3-point shooters. Kawhi was a great 3-point shooter for us as well.
Right.
So we had to adjust and kind of let go of the 3-point game, which is hard to do in today's league. But I think the way Pop coaches is you take what you can get. And a lot of times that's that too. You got to take it straight to the basket.
And
now
so
you were go ahead.
I was gonna say this is where Milwaukee's kind of missing DiVincenzo a little bit because it's thinning out the backcourt defensive rotation. But at the same time, I'm not seeing Giannis matched up against one of those against KD a lot. That needs to happen more, in my opinion. We're not seeing really Holiday and Middleton switching off of Kyrie since you don't have Harden there. We're seeing other guys who have no chance, Kyrie guarding.
Right.
You can't beat them if you're going to have an inferior defender play and then want someone to switch off or come to it, because that's when Blake Griffin gets open because Giannis is trying to come over and help and gets a little quick dunk, gets an easy shot. You have to put your best defenders on the other team's best players and let the chips fall where they may. Budenholzer is really messing it up right now. Hopefully he makes an adjustment, because if not, there's no excuses this year. You've got the team. You showed it. The coach has got to do his part as well.
Definitely. Right now we have 3 teams without head coaches. So, I hate to see Milwaukee be in that, but it might be for the best. You alluded to the score tonight. So right now it's 63-38 with Brooklyn on top. What are y'all going to do if y'all end up 0-2? Do you expect y'all to be able to come out of that hole?
It's not the end of the world. Let's be honest. The first 2 games are in Brooklyn. So if they win the first 2 games, it's not the end of the world. But it's a matter of you have to win a game in Brooklyn to win a series, because you're not the team with the home field advantage. So if you can't win one of the first 2, you're going to have to come back and try to win either game 5 or, if you get there, game 7. So you have to win a game in Brooklyn. It's better to do it earlier in the series, but it's not the end of the world if they can't. I do believe some of the other guys, just like they're doing for Brooklyn, are going to play better when they're at home. We're now at a point where you have most of the stadiums have almost capacity, so you have the fans having a bigger impact than they did, earlier or than we anticipated. So I think they'll play better at home cup, and they'll have the fans on their side. So I think they'll be able to get their games at home. But again, the concern is you only have 3 home games in the series. You have to win 4 games to win. You have to beat them in Brooklyn at some point. So you have to decide, are you going to go out there and smash the ball down their throats and play hard, play physical, and use your advantages? Or are you going to play soft basketball, shoot a bunch of threes, not use your advantage, not take the ball to the hole enough, and allow them to do exactly what they want to do?
And I heard a lot of talk yesterday that they didn't think Giannis was aggressive enough, but his stat line ended up being 34, 4, and 11. So I don't feel like that he was not aggressive. Where do you feel like that criticism came from?
There were times where he kind of disappeared from the offense, but at the end of the day, he's a focus. He's a focal point of what they're doing, especially when they realize the rest of the guys aren't hitting the jump shots. They're focusing on Giannis. So he could be a little bit more aggressive. Don't get me wrong, but when you're putting up 34 points, I mean, the other guys have to help out as well. But absolutely. I think Giannis is going to have to look at every game and say, I need 40 to 45 points for us to win. I need 40 to 45. Because if these other guys are not going to do it, I need to do it.
Absolutely. All right. So as we talked about, game 2 is underway right now. Game 3 will be Thursday at 7:30, and then game 4 will be Sunday at 2:00. All these times are central. Go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you, where they can follow you. And thank you so much, Cool.
No problem. But one thing you forgot to ask me, Megan.
Oh, what's that?
Who's going to win between the Nuggets and the Suns?
Oh, okay. Who do you expect to win?
The Nuggets.
The Nuggets. Oh, you feel like they are. I don't know. I feel like it might be Phoenix year. I think it just kind of came together for them, and they were kind of under the radar. And so, there was just, you guys kind of had some midseason changes. You got Aaron Gordon, you got JaVale McGee, and then you lost Jamal Murray. But I don't know. We didn't hear about any drama in Phoenix all year. So I kind of feel like it's their year, but we shall see.
Well, you didn't hear about any drama in Phoenix. That's true. But we do know that Chris Paul is probably not 100%. And if
True.
Chris Paul
Very
is not
true.
100%, that's going to have the same effect as AD not being able to play and LeBron not being able to play last series. Devin Booker's going to get his, but he's going to have several different people thrown at him. That we're going to go out there. We're going to throw PJ Hampton at him. We're going to go out there. We're going to throw Marcus Howard at him. We're going to throw Monte Morris. So we're going to throw several different bodies. Aaron Gordon. We're going to throw different people at him. And they live by the three and they die by the three. So in the games they lost to the Lakers, they didn't do as well as the three. We also have guys that can get hot and match that, what they're going to do from the three-point line. But DeAndre Ayton, is he going to be able to stop Nikola Jokic? That's going to be the matchup, and I don't believe that he is going to have that ability. And I think that's where we're going to have a major advantage at, as well as whoever's going to try to guard Michael Porter Jr. But that height and the way he's been playing lately, those are two matchups that I feel we're going to be better at. They're clearly going to have the better matchup at point guard. Chris Paul, even injured, is going to be better than Campazzo, or when we have the force of Monte Morris to play point guard. Now, also, if we get Will Barton back, that's going to be a big difference because now we have at least half of our starting backcourt back. So that can make a difference if we're able to get him back. But I do think that Denver has enough. This is the best matchup for us because this team is not seasoned, right? They beat a Lakers team, but they did beat a Lakers team without AD and with LeBron clearly less than 100%.
Right. Yeah, he was absolutely not 100%. Agree. Very interesting series. But I do think it's going to go to Game 7. I don't think it's going to be one of those. I don't think it's going to be one of those that we establish Game 5. We know who's winning. I don't think that's going to be the case.
It's going to have to be 7.
Cool. Definitely. All right, cool. Let everybody know where they can find you, where they can follow you, and we'll see you back next week.
Well, you catch me Thursdays on the Sip Off with Megan Price. You can catch me, of course, here. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at Cool McCain. Facebook, you can add me Cool McCain. And Friday nights, right now, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but soon to be 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Play Callers, Interactive Sports Talk.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cole. We'll see you next week.
For sure.
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and take it back to the West. We have Chris covering the Clippers. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Megan, how you doing?
Doing really well. Congratulations on y'all's win. Y'all put the Mavs out of it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, much needed. So you guys were able to win the game yesterday. Didn't really look like it was just a huge competition. Now, it wasn't a blowout, but they didn't, especially in that last quarter, they looked like they had kind of lost their gas.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too. When you look at that series where Dallas really had a shot in Game 6 to pretty much put a nail in the coffin, and they just didn't. And that was one of those things where it was like a premonition, where you let the Clippers come in and pretty much take care of business in Game 7. Like you said, it ran out of gas, and as you alluded to earlier, just the supporting cast wasn't as good as it was in Game 1. We actually talked about Tim Hardaway Jr. last week when we looked at compare and contrast the first two games in LA. Then once he got to Dallas, it was he was absent essentially offensively for this team. So a lot of that a lot of their supporting cast didn't come to play, because you even look at that Game 7 where Luka had 46, and generally 9 times out of 10, if a guys put up 46 points in a Game 7, and you pretty much will hedge all your bets, regardless of who his opponent is, that they would win.
Right, absolutely. No, and that's a trend we've actually seen quite a bit this year. We've seen Dame have 40 and 50-point games. We've seen Jason Tatum have 50 and 40-point games, and they didn't necessarily win those games. So obviously they're needing something within their health, and that's kind of what we talked about last week. That if you can, Luka's going to get his. So just focus on everything around him, and you guys were able to do that from Game 3 and on. Y'all shut Hardaway all the way down.
Big time.
Big time, definitely. So, when I look at y'all's stats from yesterday's game, you guys had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys in double digits right there. So Kawhi had 28, Morris had 23, Batum had 11. PG had 22. Jackson had 15. Who shout out to Jackson. He really made that series for you guys.
Yeah.
And Man had 13. I really like Man a lot too. And then Kennard had 11. So, it looks like a lot of bench depth from you guys in that game. And that's precisely what you're going to need for the next series.
Yeah. And this is and it's funny. We go through this week in and week out with this Clippers team where in this game 7, you see the potential in this team and you see the depth that, many people kind of ignore per se. But when these guys are on, this is, by far one of the best teams in the Western Conference. But they got to have these type of games, and we go through this week in and week out for this Clippers team, and it's almost like pulling hair every week because you know it's there, but it's just never come to fruition. But you look at like in Game 7, like you talked about, the contributions were just very heavy, and man, shout out to Marcus Morris. He broke a record, 7 3-pointers,
Definitely. Which, like I said, you guys are going to need that when you face Utah, because Utah is deep when it comes to their shooting. Now, I do want to say, hey, they're the number 1 team in basketball, right? But also, since the All-Star break, they had the number 1 easiest schedule as well. So, I think that could work in you guys' favor as well, because if your road to where you're at was a little bit harder than their road, maybe are you a little more prepared, do you think, for this series?
I think just everything. I think the Dallas series definitely helped them kind of get over that. What happened with last year? You look at, and it's almost the inverse of what happened last year, where they had a game 6, they let Denver come back, and then that kind of started, Denver series, and Denver obviously won in Game 7. This is another one where they were down 0-2, then actually faced an elimination in Dallas and took care of business. So I think mentally they're there, but Utah's a different animal. Utah, they shooting 40% from the field. From the 3. Matter of fact, from the 3, this is deep. They're another team where the one thing I'm looking at now is the Mike Conley injury, this hamstring injury. What's going to happen with that? So, and that's another thing when you look at in particular in their favor. And then I just think that, like, if you have a night where Donovan Mitchell goes off, how's the other role players going to, as far as how they'll perform? Because to me, I'm feeling definitely confident if you had a guy like a Luka put up 46 and still lost a game. So, and we know Donovan Mitchell has that potential of scoring 40, 50-something points a night. It's more so getting everybody else out of their rhythm. So it's definitely going to be a very, very interesting series. I just wonder how they're going to, as far as Rudy Gobert, are they going to kind of take him out the paint, kind of stretch him out, kind of, so it's definitely going to be a very interesting series. I think mentally they're there, physically and stuff. That's going to be the question.
Very, very interesting series. This is another one, in the other West series, I said I feel like it goes 7, and this is another one that I think goes 7 as well. I think Utah has the ability to outshoot LA sometimes now, but I also think that you guys probably have, you have the best 2-way player in the game, in my opinion, whether I like him or not, but he is definitely the best 2-way player in the game, in my opinion. So he has the ability to turn it on, as we've seen, in the previous game before this and this game as well. So, he had to make Skip dig his shoes out the trash and kind of take those words back, So this series actually starts tomorrow at 9. And then Thursday we have Game 2 at 9. Then we have Game 3 Saturday at 7:30, and then Game 4 is Monday at 9 o'clock. So we should have a way better idea of what's going on in this series by the next week's show. Go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you, where they can follow you, and we'll see you back next week.
Yeah, so you can definitely catch me here on Mondays on the NBA Carousel covering the Clippers. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram under Couch Coach Live. Check out our live show on we're gonna do it Wednesdays now at 8 o'clock. So definitely check us out, Couch Coach Live, anywhere podcast, social media. Just Google us. We're there.
Thanks, Chris. We'll see you next week.
I'll catch you next week.
All right. All right, guys. We're going to finish up in the East. We have Steve covering the Brooklyn Nets. Hey, Steve.
Hey, how you doing, Megan?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
Good. Perfect timing. We're still at halftime of the game, so it's
awesome.
Worked out great.
So you guys are dominating this game too. Let's go ahead and start with game one, though.
Okay.
So game one was this was Saturday, correct? Yes. So Milwaukee, it was a closer game. It was 115 to 107. You guys came out on top, but within the first minute of the game, you lost James Harden.
Yeah. That hamstring, anybody who's getting older can relate. If you pull a hamstring or something like that, it lingers. Obviously this is the injury that he missed 20 out of 21 games in April. He's really, he's missed 22 out of the last 31 if you want to be completely, total. But we talked about this a couple of weeks ago on how you would really want them all back healthy for a couple of weeks before the playoffs so they could get, used to things. This is one of those injuries. Obviously, he's not playing tonight. They do have the extra day off. Game 3 is not till Thursday. It's not Wednesday. But I don't expect him to play game 3 either. It's just one of those injuries where he's not going to be right, probably for this entire year. And Cool actually made an absolutely outstanding, correct point. The Nets have been playing with 2 of the 3 for most of the year. Most of the year, all 3 haven't been healthy. So they really are more comfortable without all 3 of them playing together. So, and obviously KD has 29, Kyrie has 25, and, Blake Griffin continues to pretend like it's 2005 and he went, 18 and 14 and, Joe Harris, hit some big shots. Mike James had 12. Like he had huge off the bench. Bruce Brown played well, they're both doing that again tonight, which we'll talk about here in a second. But the biggest thing that also Cool said exactly correct. If Milwaukee shoots 6 of 30 from 3, they're not beating the Pistons, let alone the Nets. So you got to make to dumb it down as simple as you can. Yeah, no kidding. I know, but you have to make shots. If you don't make shots, you're not going to win. So,
and especially against possibly the best offense in the league. Like you definitely got to counter with good offense.
The Nets are going to score. I don't care what defense you put it. The Nets are going to score. So you're not going to win, 98-95 against the Nets. You're going to have to beat them, 125 to 120. That's just that, that's your best, your best case. So yeah, if you're struggling from the floor, if you're not using the advantages that they have inside with Lopez and Giannis, and, if Holiday's shooting as poorly as he was up until the end of the quarter, again, we'll talk about that in a second here tonight, you're gonna have some trouble. But the most important thing, especially with these next 2 days, if the Bucks don't come back tonight and make it respectable, you're gonna hear how no one can beat the Nets, and the Nets are the clear-cut favorite, and it's great and all, but they still have to go to Milwaukee and take care of business. So, and Milwaukee was playing really, really good basketball, obviously destroying the Heat in 4 games. Maybe a little bit too much rest. They got a little rusty. I don't know. We'll see. But assuming that the Nets hold on to this lead, which I think they will, yeah, you're going to be up 2-0. But really, all you did is win the games you're supposed to win at home. That old saying goes: the series doesn't start until the road team wins a game. So, because if the home teams just take care of business, then we got a game 7. We'll see what happens. So, we'll see on Thursday night what happens, and then Sunday for game 4. But so far, so good. But really, it hasn't been Durant and Kyrie Irving, though they've been incredible. We expect that from them. It's been Blake Griffin, Mike James, Bruce Brown, Joe Harris. Those guys have been the real reason why the Nets are up 1-0 and up comfortably in the second half. Well, at halftime. Second half is not quite started yet. So at halftime here tonight.
Yes, it's 65-41 currently. And like you said, we haven't gotten to the third quarter yet. Kevin Durant already has 21 points. Goodness. Kyrie Irving has 9 points. Brown has 11 points. Griffin has 7. So definitely, you know what? And I said this probably a couple weeks ago, but I really like, and I mean, y'all are winning ball games, so definitely don't fix it if it's not broken. But I really like how Brooklyn looks when James Harden's on the court. That's what I was really looking forward to. I just kind of like how the team works when James Harden's at the one. Like, I just think they look their most efficient with James Harden on the floor. Not to take anything away from KD, because he's, in my opinion, the most efficient player in basketball currently. So, that kind of takes away from that. But I just feel like they work better. Like, they pass the ball better. Their rotations are better when James Harden's on the court. So, even if you guys are able to finish out this series, like you said, you still got to go to Milwaukee and see if you still have this same speed, this same, move ahead. But do you think we'll see James Harden this series, or do you think we won't see him until next series?
I think he's going to try probably by Sunday for Game 4, especially if the Bucks win Game 3 and make it 2-1. Then I definitely think he'll try in Game 4. But yeah, that hamstring, and it's the same hamstring that obviously that he missed time with already. It's very, very troubling. But though, yes, he has had obviously a great year when he was playing. But Durant is doing what he's supposed to be doing. Like you said, he already has 21 at halftime tonight, and he's doing what Giannis should be doing, who instead has 6 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists tonight at halftime. Chris Middleton started the game 0 for 8. He's finally hit a couple of shots, but Chris Middleton's 3 for 11, and Holiday's got 10. Lopez has 10. But they're not going to win, obviously, if Middleton shoots 3 for 11 each half, and if Giannis puts up the old triple single, as Charles Barkley always likes to call him. He pulled up that triple single, 6, 5, and 4. That's not going to get it done, obviously.
No,
especially Blake Griffin, yes, he's got 7.6 rebounds, but he's got 2 dunks. He's got a tip dunk on a rebound that was nice, where nobody decided to box him out, and then he went baseline and dunked over Giannis. So he continues to,
surprise,
stick it to all of us in Michigan. Right, he didn't dunk for 2.5 years, and all of a sudden he's jumping out the gym again. But he had a chip on his shoulder. He wanted to show people that he's still a good player, and which obviously he is. He doesn't have to be the focal point. But he's had a great half. Bruce Brown's had a great half, and not only has Bruce Brown scored 11 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists. He's also playing great defense on Chris Middleton. He's chasing him around every screen. He's putting a hand up on every shot, and which is why Chris Middleton started 0 for 8. And he hit a couple here late, but he's still 3 for 11 for a half. So obviously the Bucks need to be better. But yeah, 65-41 at home. Obviously, you feel really good about that. You get the couple extra days rest, with the 1 extra day rest after this. Don't play till Thursday night in Milwaukee, which obviously that place is going to be rocking, and the Bucks are going to be looking to get one, but they need to go inside. They need to stop settling for threes. If Middleton and Forbes are hitting, that's one thing, but they can't win a game, like you said, obviously going 6 for 30. So they got to, Giannis has got to be aggressive. He's got to get to the basket. But the Bucks even went zone for a little bit, and the Nets did a really smart thing there, is they put Kyrie in the middle of the zone, in the paint, in that high post position, where obviously he can pass and score, and that the Nets had no issues with that at all. So that was a really good move by Steve Nash to put him in the middle of the zone and let him attack, because obviously you can still have Durant up top, who obviously can shoot over anybody because he's 7 feet and long. So really, right now the Nets don't look like they're going to slow down. They're just going to keep rolling. But right now all they're doing is what they're supposed to do, win the 2 games at home. So we'll see Thursday night once it goes to Milwaukee. But next week when we meet, it will be after Game 4, so we'll know for sure what kind of series we're in for here. But yeah, so far so good. I mean, Durant's been Durant, and the role players are really playing well, and right now Giannis and Middleton are not pulling up their end of the bargain for Milwaukee, and that equals a 24-point halftime lead.
Right. All right. Well, Steve, go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you, where they can follow you, and we'll definitely see you back next week.
Absolutely. Every Monday night here on the NBA Carousel right here. Now, obviously, just talking about the Nets, as everybody else that I had talked about at different times are done. All Eyes on You, just letter U, All Eyes on You Hoops on Twitter. Easiest way to find me on Twitter. Hit me up. There's a link right there to my website and the Flagrant Friends podcast, which we shoot every Tuesday night. Those are up there as well, Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning. And that is the easiest and best way to connect with me. And I will see you next week, Megan. Have a great rest of your week.
You too as well. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for this week. Enjoy your round 2 playoffs. And don't forget the WNBA is also in full swing. See you guys next week. Thanks for watching.